National Express. When your life's in a mess, it'll make you smile. All human life is here, from the feeble old dear to the screaming child, from the student who knows that to have one of those would be suicide, to the family man manhandling the pram with paternal pride. And everybody sings, yeah, all right, we're going where the air is free.
Martin Parr has always been one of my photography heroes. I've loved his work for years. The way he looked at the world, the way he captured the weird and the wonderful, the humour he found in the everyday, just fantastic. So when I heard he was speaking at Green Man Festival a couple of years ago, I knew I had to be there. It was the first time I saw him in the flesh. His talk was honest, open, non-pretentious, and genuinely generous with all his experiences. I still remember one moment. Someone in the audience had asked how many great photos one should expect from a roll of film. Parr asked the man how many he thought. The answer from him was maybe half a roll. Parr laughed and said he was lucky to even get one. His point was simple. Editing matters. Less can be more. It was blunt but funny. It was him, direct, unvarnished, and truly himself. After that talk, I queued up to ask, when are you going to come to Exeter? Our students would love you. He paused and said, because you've never asked me. At that point, I knew I had to follow through. And this year I did. And at the beginning of October, Martin Parr came to Exeter College. We entered the lecture theatre to a room full of buzzing students. I was very relieved to see them. And then he gave a brilliant talk. He was fantastic with the students. Same humour, same blunt honesty, same deep love for photography. When a student asked him how she could be like him, a full-time artist, he looked around the room and said, most of you will not make it. Most of you are not inspired, driven, or hardworking enough. It was a stark but honest response, a reminder that creativity is hard work, but deeply rewarding if you put the time and effort in. By the end, every student wanted something signed or a photo with him, a moment with the man who'd inspired them. He gave his time freely, smiling, talking, laughing. He left on a high note. None of us knew it would be one of his last public talks. Martin died this December at the age of 73. His passing was announced by the Martin Parr Foundation with deep sadness. The photography world has mourned the loss of one of the most acute observers and chronicle of the everyday and the sublime. The brilliant documentarian whose colour, humour and curiosity reshaped how we see life. He will be greatly missed.
And this came out as a book around 15 years ago. I couldn't get it published at the time, so I had to wait another 20 years before it finally came out. And during this time, I decided I would also try and do something a bit more conceptual, a bit like the open pictures that I'd established. I came up with this idea of photographing in and around bad weather. We have a great big obsession in this country about weather. We talk about it all the time. I'm sure you know that. It's the classic icebreaker. And it struck me that, photographers are meant to go out when it's nice and sunny. I would do the reverse and only go out when it's really miserable and wet. This is from 1977, the Queen's Silver Jubilee washed out street party. I bought myself an underwater camera and an underwater flash gun. This meant I was able to photograph anything and everything without worrying about getting water in my camera. This is of Roscommon races. And I discovered also you've got these blobs when you combine flash with what we call the magic hour and the lights fading. And these blobs almost happened by accident, but I then started to incorporate them into the images. And for this project, I sort of challenged myself to try and think of very boring places to go to see if it's possible to get an interesting picture in a very boring place. So I went to motorway service stations, supermarket car park, just trying out different things to see if it was possible. Here's a picture of the bandstand at People's Park in Halifax, taken on a tripod. And here's the same scene, but taken a few minutes later, but with flash. So which one is telling the truth? We understand, of course, there are different interpretations of the same scene. So this inherent subjectivity was something I wanted to use in my work a lot more. A little bad weather picture. And this came out as a book in 1982. This is the first book that I published. And since then, I've done over 100 books. Here's a few covers. To give you an example. I love the book. I think for me it's the best way to preserve photography. The internet, even the internet comes and goes, exhibitions come and go, magazines get thrown away, but no one throws away a photography book. And also to sort of back that, this is a set of books that I did with a friend of mine called Jerry Badger about the history of the photo book. We thought the photo book within the cultural history of photography was very underrepresented. So we put together this big project looking at the photo books from around the world, which was published by Biden. I've done quite a bit of curating. This is the big festival in Arles, in the south of France. I was the curator of this in 2004. And one of the people we brought across for that was Rinko Kawachi. It's the first time she had a show in Europe, and she's become a very famous photographer since then, so that helped to establish her career over in Europe. And this is the Brighton Photo Biennale in 2010. That's a Stephen Gill picture on the front there, where he used to put spiders and crabs into the camera, physically into the camera. And this is from Oscar Gomez Perez from the same festival. And he was a taxi driver in Mexico City and photographed Mexico City through his taxi window. And this is an exhibition I did at the Barbican in London. And it looks strangely familiar, and it looks at all the different photographers that have come to the UK from abroad to show the work that they take. It's always fascinating to see what other people make of the work of the place where you live. And one of the people we showed was Sergio Laurent, a brilliant Chilean photographer who got a British Council Fellowship in the late 50s and did this great body of work. Here we are in Trafalgar Square. And this is interesting because it's a Peter Mitchell image. And Peter Mitchell was, if you like, the colour pioneer in Britain. He did a show at the Impressions Gallery in 1979 called The New Reputation of Viking 4 Mission, where he supposed that people came down from Mars, looked around Leeds and didn't know what to make of it, but had all these photos as evidence of some peculiar behaviour going on. So when he published this work, not as a book, I did that much later for him, people were really puzzled. We didn't have colour pictures in photography galleries in the UK. And this is a Tony Ray Jones picture. He's probably one of my photographic heroes. He was a British photographer who went to study in America, and he met the likes of that new generation of photographers, Robert Frank, Joel Meritz, Stephen Shaw, and he was inspired by their work, and he came back and photographed England in the late 60s in a way that never had been done before. This is a picture of his taken at Ramsgate. This is the motorway, the M1, opened in 1959, and I remember when I was about 10, going on the motorway as a treat. These days, of course, you wouldn't get onto the motorway as a treat whatsoever. And I worked at Butlins in Friday, and I noticed that there are cards called done by a company called John Hines, with very bright colours, showing the sort of classic colours of the 60s and 70s in the brightest of colours. And I was looking at my own black and white pictures and thinking, mine are boring compared to what this guy was doing. So in 1982, I saw also someone called Sally Leclerc, who was showing the new colour work from America by that generation of colour photographers, Eggleston, Merritt, Stephen Shore, etc. And way back in 1982, I decided therefore to move to colour from black and white. And I bought myself a Powell camera. This is a medium format camera, just been introduced with a wide angle lens. And just down the road from where we were living was this rundown seaside resort called New Brighton. And what I did over the next 3 years was to photograph that. And it's a combination of showing how shabby and litter strewn it is, but together with this sort of families that are still going out there as a day trip. So it's a contradiction, if you like, putting those two things together. The guy in the middle there wrote to me about 15 years ago, said, no, 20 years ago, said, I'm studying photography at college, I'm doing a thesis about your work. So that's his mother, second one in. I sent her a print, and it's very nice to get an email from a baby. In the burger bar, in the big Lido, the big swimming pool there. And of course, I'm going down there when the litter is at its worst, because you have to remember I'm sort of creating my own fiction out of the reality of what I'm looking at. So Sunday afternoons, bank holiday afternoons, would be my best capturing time. That's the ice cream girl.
Did she get in touch with you?
We've never met her, actually. I mean, I sort of know someone who knows who she is. Apparently she doesn't much like the photos, so I'm not going out of my way. Otherwise, I'd happily given her one. And this came out as a book in 1986. I got a small grant from the Arts Council. Rather than waiting for someone else to publish it, I thought I would publish it myself. So I fixed up the text, fixed up the printing, employed a designer, and off it went to be printed. And the next thing I did in the 80s was something about shopping and supermarkets, because it struck me that this is an aspect of British society that hadn't really been covered. It was just at a time when all these shopping centres are opened, it became a whole thing in itself, so this needed to be recorded. This is at M&S, as you can see. And this is also at M&S. You can see how the typography has all changed now. And bang in the middle of that picture is a piece of broccoli. And broccoli was having a great decade in the 80s. Suddenly we all started eating it. So that, for me, is social history as well as being an interesting picture. Frozen Food Centre. And here's an unpromising subject. If I was to say to you, go out and photograph someone filling their car with petrol, you might well say, well, what's the point of that? But if you look at this picture here, 35 years later, the pump has changed, the clothes have changed, the car has changed, so suddenly it becomes a lot more interesting. And I think this really helps to demonstrate the value of documentary photography and what it can show us. This is a Tupperware party. So I also did, selling things in people's houses. Here's a Tupperware party in full swing. Tupperware's gone now, by the way, I'm sure we all know that.
No, it hasn't.
Bit of social history. And the final project in the 80s was about the middle classes, because people criticised me, understandably, for the New Brighton pictures, saying how dare this middle class photographer come in and exploit the working classes. And I took that on board, and I thought the main class that hadn't really been documented was indeed the class that I belonged to myself, and probably some of you, the middle classes. So my wife got a job in Bristol, so we moved down there in 1987, and we haven't moved since. This is Malvern Girls' School. This is a function for a summer evening at the Royal Commonwealth Society. Mother and daughter. This is one of these garden schemes, you know, open gardens. And because I didn't particularly like Mrs. Thatcher, you know, I think most photographers in the 80s were sort of anti-Thatcher. Inevitably, we sort of come from the left of politics, and I decided when I moved to Bristol, I would go and try and photograph the Conservative Party events. So I went to them, they gave me a list of things, and I particularly made a point of going to things that were on in people's houses. So this is the Young Conservatives, Bath Young Conservatives Midsummer Madness Party. I call this the reluctant wallet. This is a craft fair, as you can see. So I tried to think of things that I particularly disliked. Sorry, is there a ceramics course here? No, that's okay then, yeah. I particularly don't like crafts. But you'll see in a minute things I do approve of. Yeah, this is National Childbirth Trust antenatal classes. So my wife was pregnant and she said, we must go to these classes. I said, happily go as long as I can take my camera. This is Laura Ashley, also gone. And this is a dinner party, still the biggest event for the middle classes. Aerobics. And this came as a book in 1989. This is a long-standing project that I've done called Small World, which looks at tourism. So I did this well before the time of the smartphone. So you can see this is the Leaning Tower of Pisa, of course. And the idea is to really have people in front of the tourist location in the background. Here, Japanese tourists loading up on the gondolas. This is Venice in Las Vegas. There are many Venices around the world, so I photographed some of them. And this is also in Las Vegas. This is France in Las Vegas. And interestingly, when you photograph people on the street and someone's looking at you, it often sort of ruins the picture. But here, the guy, the way he's looking at me, almost makes the picture. So there are all these weird rules in photography which you can never quite get on top of. That's what keeps me, being excited by photography. You never know quite how it's going to turn out. This is Machu Picchu. And this is a very famous viewpoint which people go to early in the morning. I got there about 8 o'clock. There's already a queue of people getting in there. And I think this demonstrates very well the idea of the mythology of a place, a sort of image we have in our own heads, a sort of place it's going to be like. And when you get there, you find the reality is quite different. So it's mythology versus reality. And then, of course, you find places like this is in the park in Barcelona, the famous dragon. And there are so many people trying to photograph it, you just can hardly move. But of course, I can incorporate those people into my images. This is Edinburgh during festival time. And here we have Venice, completely crowded. So I used to be able to go to the British size and be able to photograph there without any problem. But nowadays, it's just full of people. And this is, I think, the 5th edition of the book. Every time we do a new printing, we put a different photo on the cover. This is from Noto in Sicily. And here we have the selfie stick. And the selfie stick, I also would argue, has gone into decline. It's sort of semi-disappeared. Here it is at its height, maybe 15 years ago, when everyone was using it. And now people don't have so much a stick, they just use their ordinary phones. This is the Cliffs of Moher in Ireland. And here we are in India, and because more people are killed by taking selfies in India than anywhere else in the world, I make the assumption that more people are taking pictures in India than anywhere else in the world. So they are the number one selfie photographers. It's on the beach in Goa. Imperial War Museum. And this is a book that I did called Death by Selfie. And it's the same size as an iPhone and opens up. So it's like a replica of an iPhone that has pages in the middle which open up and show more detailed photos. In 1995, I decided I would buy a ring flash and a macro lens. This is a combination usually associated with photography of medical purposes. And it gives you this light either side of the lens. So it's almost like a portable studio that you can take around. And I got very excited by what this possibly could do, and especially thinking about photographing subjects like food. So the first project I did on this was to photograph British food, especially for the benefit of the French and the Italians, just for them to confirm how bad British food is. We all know, of course, it's got considerably better, but you can always find examples of really things that aren't quite that good. And after that, I decided I'd photograph cliches. It's something you're not really meant to do, but I thought about 8 different countries around Europe and tried to think of the cliches associated with those countries, and then go out and see if I could photograph them. So here we are in the UK. French snails. In Germany. And Holland. And all these pictures came together into a book which was published in the spring of '99 called Common Sense. And we also made a set of laser copies which we distributed to different galleries around the world. So we have 45 galleries doing the same show at the same time in April of '99. This is how it looked in Rome. And we would send out the laser prints, and the only thing we wanted back was installation shots to show that they'd done a big show with it. Here we are in Japan. So many different ways of presenting these images. And here are some of the pictures from that exhibition. This is taken in Benidorm. This is back in Las Vegas. It's one of those $10.99 help yourself. And that, by the way, is apricot on some cream cheese, although it's pretending to be an egg. The watch says, "I love bingo." It's from Florida. And this is from the ashtray in Disneyland Los Angeles. And here we are in Disneyland Tokyo. On the beach in Florida. So after doing that initial work with the cliches, I decided I would do a book about English cliches, if you like, but I would come further back. So you can see here, I've still used the ring flash. You can see it's flashed on the flag, but I've also got more of the background in as well, even though it's falling away and is out of focus. Here we are at Ascot. You can see this in an old photo. Just look at the phone's got an aerial. Phone's no longer even an aerial. This is in Weymouth. So I'm always going back to the seaside looking to take more pictures. And one of the things you learn in photography is that sunglasses always look very good in images, even when they're out of focus. This is like a self-portrait. It's socks and sandals. I'm a great believer in socks and sandals, but now it's shoe season, so that time of year is finished. These are tea cozies. When I show people this from abroad, they can't work it out. They can't work out why a teapot needs a coat. I like the fact that we're a multicultural country. It's on the beach in Brighton. I thought I'd show you one particular book and also try and explain how the production values of this have helped to, if you like, get across the point of why I've made this set of images and the book. So the bias is Spanish for beach, and over the years I've been to South America, Latin America to photograph in our winter and their summer, so Argentina, Chile, Peru, and I thought I would put together these into a book, and I got my friend in Mexico City, who is a publisher, to look and explore different ways of getting this out. So he went to different designers. These pictures on the front here are pictures from my book, or from that work, and he came up with this, and we went for the worst possible design. Because most photographers, if they do a book, they wouldn't want graphics, especially nasty graphics like this, all over their book. But we welcomed it. And then we found a really bad printer, and we said, make as many mistakes as you like. You can see here there's no yellow gone through the printing. And again, you see the designs coming in, truly horrible. So this book is so bad, it becomes interesting again. Here we have double printing on the left, single printing on the right. And the main beach in Mar del Plata, the biggest resort in Argentina, is actually called Bristol Beach, so I always feel very at home there. So we're going right way forward now to 2019, where I did a big exhibition at the National Portrait Gallery in London, and I'm going to show you some extracts from that. And the portrait gallery there is usually showing celebrities, fashion people, not really ordinary people. But I said to them, I want to show ordinary people as well as some sort of famous people as well, and they agreed to this. So for me, it's a great opportunity to explore this possibility. So here you have Norman with his prize leak from Samuel Show. This is a lady in Germany who does Princess Di parties. This is from Atlanta Pride. Very proud lady. These are two Muslim ladies I found in Hull who are running a fish and chip shop, which is quite unusual. And the next set is about dancing. I've always loved photographing dancing. I like the idea. People have a few drinks, they get the right music, and it's irresistible. People just have to get up and start dancing. This is the Leavers Ball for one of the big public schools. And you can see here I've done a slightly longer shutter speed, so it means you get some kind of sense of movement there, and you get to see the background as well. This is a Sikh birthday party in Manchester. This is Bar Mitzvah in New York. This is Gay Pride in Manchester. This is a Whitby Goth Festival. This is a band called New Order who are playing. And I love the fact that these guys have stripped off and gone crazy in front of the band. And then the next one I did was about the establishment in Britain. I've done working class, I've done middle classes, and I want to sort of upgrade myself and do documentation of that more upper class people. So this is a German, a British base in Germany, a buffet served by the Queen. This is Christ Hospital, which is a public school in Sussex, and they still wear this sort of very traditional Tudor uniform. This is in Harrow, and when you meet a master in Harrow, you have to sort of put your finger up as acknowledgement. And this is in Harrow. This is one of these weird games they play. It's like a hybrid between rugby and football, but extremely muddy. Here's the captain at the end of the match. And here's the same guy, half an hour later, as head of the house. This is the mayor of the City of London. There's two mayors in London, the City and then the wider mayor, like Sally Khan at the moment. But I was looking particularly at the City of London and the things that went on there. And these are often run by livery companies. Livery companies are like a strange mix between Freemasons and trade unions. And they're very traditional, older men, my age, white hair, lots of drinking. This is the Lord Mayor's Parade. This is the Queen, probably one of the few people who've been recognised from behind. And here she is attending a grocer's livery lunch. It's the only livery company that she was a member of. And here she is. Word had got out at the back that the Queen was in there. And you can see I've been photographing her from the back. And all those other people, there's a picture of me holding my Canon camera behind the Queen. I feel sorry for them. And at the end, this is all the swans on the River Thames are owned by the Crown. And this is the livery companies that come out and do a count of the cygnets, the newly born swans. And at the end of the day, they toast the Queen. Now they toast the King, of course. This is at Oxford University. That's the Chancellor, so his page boy. But this is the Vice-Chancellor, that's the person who has the real power there. This is one of the May balls, which are usually held in June, in fact. This is at 1 o'clock in the morning, for a pizza queue. And this is 5 in the morning. And when you do your exam at Oxford University, if it's your first year, you have to wear a pink carnation, and you have to wear your gown, of course. And then when it's your second exam, ongoing in other words, you have to wear a white carnation. And then finally, if it's your final exam, you have to wear a red carnation. And as you leave the examination hall at the back, you're welcomed by your fellow students who basically trash you. So they throw Prosecco, foam, they go completely bonkers. And then they have to wash it off in the River Cherwell. I thought I'd show you some pictures now about, this is one way I have to earn a living. So in 1999, I was approached by an Italian magazine saying, would I like to do some fashion? And I thought, well, why not? I'll give it a go. So they sent me to Rimini in Italy, and they provided, I think, 2 or 3 models. But then I started to incorporate them into scenes with other people. So obviously the woman wearing the blue dress sat down is just happens to be there, but it's great that she's in blue, and the model is also in blue. That's another version. You can see the model there, second in. And I'm just incorporating the scene on the beach with her walking through it. Here's another one. You see the 2 models there, and you see the guy here suddenly did this pose, but that made the photo really work. This is in New Jersey. This is another technique we've often used where, this is for French L, we have a van, we drive round and we look for people on the street. When we see someone we like the look of, we screech to a halt, get out, ask if they'd like to be a fashion model, get them to sign, and then we show them and give them accessories and sunglasses and take their picture. And this is something else where I photographed older women showing jewellery, because often it's very young, beautiful models that you have showing jewellery, and they can never really afford it, whereas older women have more chance of being able to afford it. And this is just an example of the different ways in which I try and do fashion. Here we have, this is for kids wear, it's a German kids magazine, and the girl there having her teeth done is the model, and that's her mum standing by. And I just like the idea of taking over a dental surgery and making it into a fashion model studio. This is for Balenciaga. So here we have, I think there's 17 models on this shoot. And I was on a double-decker bus, shouting down, getting people to walk through, even incorporating the people on that platform behind, in front of the Eiffel Tower. This is in Rio for Vogue, Brazilian Vogue. You can see the model there holding a pineapple, and the other people I've just popped into the picture to sort of give it some balance. Anyone old in here, there aren't many of us, might remember the girl from Ipanema, the song. Yes? Yes, nodding away here. This is her. She's made a whole career about being the girl from Ipanema. She's now in her mid-70s, in pretty good shape, and Gucci sort of brought her along and lent her this swimsuit to do an advertising shoot. And here we are working for Gucci again. This is in Cannes, and this is one of those trains that you see rumbling around seaside resorts that we basically hijacked and got on. So it's a mixture between the models and the extras that we're throwing in at the same time. And this is from that same shoot. This is I saw this lady here reclining on the I guess camp bed or something, and I frizzed her hair out a bit, put the glasses on, and there you have the shot. This is for Vogue in America. This is where again you have the model on the left and the two women there who are talking to each other, adding the balance to give the picture a sort of sense of balance, so it all makes it work. And this is with Zara. This is where basically you get a room full of people. They're all putting on Zara clothes, and we just say, go away and dance and see what we can come up with. And this all came out in a book which was published 18 months ago or so, called Fashion Faux Pas, published by Parr. So this is the Martin Parr Foundation, which is in Bristol. The purpose of the foundation is to support and give a platform to other British documentary photographers and Irish photographers. And to this extent, we do 3 or 4 shows a year. We have a big library, we have a big archive. We have over 5,000 prints by different British photographers. And next weekend, we have our big autumn festival, which is called BOP, Books on Photography. And you get to see 60 publishers. We have 8 talks going on. We have a pub quiz at night, and there's lots of things to look at and see. So anyone wanting something to do next weekend, please come along. It's all free to go into. And here's the gallery. This is a Kavi Pajara show. This is a show I did about Chewstoke, which is a village near to Bristol, which I shot for the Telegraph in the 80s. This is David Hearn, very fine photographer, also a Magnum member. He's produced this amazing set of prints by exchanging prints with other photographers. And this whole collection now has been given to the National Museum of Wales. This is Martin the donkey paying a visit. Here's our bookshop, just part of it. And we have lots of talks and discussions. That's David Hearn on the left, Bailey in the middle, and myself on the right. And this is part of the place where we have 60 publishers come along and show their work and new books that are being published. This is Stephen Gill, very brilliant photographer, also came from Bristol. And here's our library. We have over 6,000 books. And if you're a supporter member, which means you've paid 150 quid, you get a signed 10 by 8 Martin Parr print every year. This is the one we're giving out this year. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is some censored images. So this is, people often used to ask me, what's on your bucket list of things you haven't done, which you'd like to. And one of the things I always mentioned was the Queen's garden party in May. And okay, I got a CBE, and part of the package was I got an invite to go to that. So here's Susie and myself. And they said you can't bring in a big camera, but I brought in a small camera and had a great afternoon photographing away. Here's the view of the loo. This is where you queue up and get your tea and sandwiches. This is at the end of the day because they have literally over 1,000 people there attending, so it's quite crowded. And then at the end of the project, we wrote to the palace and said, we'd like to publish the pictures, is it okay? And they wrote back and said, you can't, because you haven't got permission from people in the photographs. So I can show these to you on the screen, but they can never be published. So you're seeing censored images. Okay, this is the final project I want to show you, something called Auto Portrait. This is a series that I've taken about myself having my photo taken in different studios, right the way going back to the analog years, right the way through to digital. So a few things have happened in this time. I've got a lot older. You can see my gradual decline, my hair turning from brown to white. And also, you know, photography's evolved from the analog days right the way through to digital. And now I think all portrait studios are done with digital photography. This is a puzzle, by the way, on the front here. So you get two metal balls, and you have to get into the center where my head is. So I would go to a student and say, please take a picture of me in that style, and that's what the photographers would do. So this one is an early picture taken from Jamaica. We are in Benidorm. This is in Havana, Studio Hanoi, and this is obviously a black and white photograph that's been hand-coloured. Perhaps the only place on the planet now where you might still get that done is Pyongyang. This is in North Korea. This is from Brazil. This is a technique where you get a faintly printed black and white image, and then you put oil paint over it to give it this sort of oil look. This is from Mexico City. We found someone who was doing this traditional way of making models, of literally carving them out and then painting them. Here's another one. So now we get to the digital age, where you can be with anyone, anytime, any place. And it's all down to the sort of merits of the photographer, what they come up with. This is in Mexico. Here we are in Barcelona. This is in the world of Coke in Atlanta, where you can try different Cokes from all around the world. They're all different. And now again, as I say, it's the imagination of the photographers. This is from Dubai. I don't know what it means, but I'm sure it's funny. Here we are in Nairobi. This photo is so bad it becomes interesting again. I look like an East German spy. In China. So in China they have this tradition of creating an album before you actually get married. So you go along to the studio and you select 4 different sets of costumes, and you have 4 different photographers, and they make up the pictures, and they take half a dozen of each one and put them into a book called Sweet Memory. And here's me with a very flashy white jacket. That's more traditional. It's from Singapore. This is from Lima in Peru, and you can see here it is literally a photo studio which they push around the beach. From New York. Okay, so I met someone I saw in the paper, a company called Hey Saturday, and Hey Saturday said to, their punchline is that if you're getting the wrong dates on the internet, it's because your photos aren't good enough. So I wrote to the woman who runs this and explained, would she come and take some pictures of me? And she did that. And then for the first time ever, I decided I had to smile. So I've now got these pictures. Should anything happen, I can always use them. By the way, it's Martin fucking Parr scarf. Sorry, the fucking Parr isn't available to look at. That was designed by Henry Holland. And I had cancer, and when I had chemotherapy, my hair fell out. And when it grows back, it grows curly. And that's what inspired me to have a tintype done by a photographer in Bristol. And this is a book that's just been published called Utterly Lazy and Inattentive. It's my biography. It's got 150 images in, with me talking about each picture, and transcribed by Wendy and put together by Wendy. And the title here is from my school report, from my French lessons in year 6, I think it was. And so I've always thought it's a great honour to be called Utterly Lazy and Inattentive. And one day I knew it would come in useful, so here it is, finally, it's got its home. And that, everybody, is it.
So I think we're going to take just a couple of questions, so if you just raise your hand if you've got any burning questions for Martin.
Oh.
There's someone, yeah.
What was the worst reaction you got when taking photos?
Yeah, I mean, hang on. Yeah, they turn the lights off. I mean, every couple of months you may get someone who is furious that you've taken their picture. They storm over and say, you know, you have no right to take the picture. In fact, legally, you have a right to take anyone in a public place in the UK and do anything you like to do. So yeah, you do find those people. It's just an occupational hazard you have to basically get used to. It doesn't happen that often, but maybe every couple of months it might happen. At least most days when I'm shooting, it doesn't happen, but occasionally it does.
Oh, what's next?
Hello. Oh, right. So, hello. Yeah, sorry. Hi.
Hello.
Yeah. So the next project I'm doing is actually a show in Nuremberg in Germany called Grand Hotel Parr. And they've converted a museum into a hotel with my themed ideas coming through. And it also shows every book I've ever published in one go. so that's the only time that's ever going to happen. And on the home front, I've just done a project called Laycock. Laycock is where Fox Talbot invented the negative. It's a village in Wiltshire, very beautiful, very pretty. And the National Trust, who own that, asked me to do a portrait of contemporary Laycock. So I photographed lots of families in their homes. I went to all the different events that they put on. So that's going to be an exhibition next spring as well. So that's next. Go ahead.
How did the reaction of people change when everything digitalised? Because surely when you take them with a film...
Yeah, I mean, it's easier with digital because previously people would say, oh, well, you have to rip your film out of the camera, which of course I would never do. I've often been down to a police station, protecting my camera. With digital, because most of the pictures I take are rubbish, you have to understand, I go out in the morning and most of what I take is not very good. If you said to yourself, I'm only going to take good pictures today, you may never start. So, assuming that the picture I've taken of that person has gone mad is no good, I'll just show it to them and delete it. And then move on. Plenty more fish in the sea. Go ahead.
How do you find these events to shoot at?
I guess, research really, yeah. I mean, often when I'm doing a commission, like the Laycock, they just told me all the dates of the events in the whole summer, so I just knew the dates I had to show up and take pictures. So yeah, you often need a good producer who basically sets everything up for you. And the same even with fashion. If we're doing a shoot with ordinary people as opposed to models, that has to be prepared, they have to be ready to know what they're doing. So yeah, having a good producer is essential. At the back? A Canon 5D. I've also got a Canon, digital one? No, that's digital anyway, but no, one with a C-view viewfinder, right? So you can see I'm not very good at these things. What's it called? Help me, tech team. That's it, R5, yeah. I got one of those as well. Canon gave me one very nicely. But I don't like the viewfinder because you can hardly see it. So I tend to go back and use my 5D Mark IV, which I know my way around. I've also got a Fuji X100, whatever they call. So that's what I took when I was working in the Palace Gardens, because it's unobtrusive, it's much smaller than the big Canon.
Which one of your projects do you see your fame?
I guess still, even though it's like 35 years ago, The Last Resort is still the thing that I'm best known for. And the book continues to be published and sold every year. So even though it's a bit depressing that it's so long ago, and you could argue I've gone downhill since, it's still the one, and from at the pearly gates, it's the one I get out first and show them before they let me in. Yeah, okay, now, it's contagious. Go ahead.
Which project are you most proud of?
Yeah, The Last Resort.
Really? That
Yeah. And the guy there in the black t-shirt.
What's your favourite thing about photography?
Oh God, I mean the life I've had is amazing. Basically I've been paid to do my hobby. I've gone around the world, people have paid me to do that. It's a phenomenal life that I've had. The places I've been to, I've been everywhere, and it's quite fantastic. So, being a photographer is a great it's just a great career really, because you get to see so much of what's going on. And you get to know your own country as well. So really, I'm out there thinking about my photography and how my relationship to the world that I live in particular, I guess, the UK, and it's almost like a therapy to have that sort of ability to define yourself through the photographs and your relationship to the country in photographs. Is that it? Oh, sorry, I didn't see. Go ahead.
What piece of advice would you give for a up-and-coming photographer trying to establish their work?
First off, you have to find the right subject, one that you actually like. And you've got to remember, you've got to be obsessed. There's no half measures with this. If you're not obsessed, you're not going to get anywhere. Photography is a very competitive field. So you find that right subject, you get involved with it, you photograph it. Through that sort of involvement and the connection you might have with the subject matter, you might find a new way of taking pictures, a new way for you particularly, and that's how you can basically progress. But I know there's lots of photographers here. I guess I hate to tell you this, but most of you won't make it as a photographer because you just don't work hard enough. Students basically, sorry about this, So you basically don't understand what working hard is like. Like, come the weekend, what are you doing? Are you taking pictures? Or are you hanging out with your mates drinking? Or both? Yeah, so I'm afraid you're not obsessed enough. You heard it from me first. Remember these words. I should write it down. Go ahead.
Have you considered revisiting any of your old projects and trying to kind of create something new out of like the things that you were working on back in the 70s?
Sort of. I mean, I go back sometimes and look at the work. I go through contact prints. Like during COVID, I was going through contact prints, looking at old pictures and finding some that I hadn't, taken seriously. So I do a bit of that. But because I've got so many projects, I've got these like 120 books. Each one is a different project. I tend not to spend too much time. I'm always looking forward rather than looking backwards. When I'm crippled and old and in a wheelchair, that'll give me something to do, right? Go ahead.
At what point did you your book?
I guess when I was at college, really. I didn't. I mean, for example, if you had told me when I was at college that I'd be a commercial photographer, I'd say you're joking. I have no interest in it at all. But now, because I've got to generate income for the foundation, I'm quite happy doing it. It's like I like solving ideas and problems through photography. So you have a job. You're given a task to do. They want interesting photographs. They want Martin Parr pictures, and that's what you deliver every time. So it's quite amazing, really, who you get to meet for doing that. Next week I'm photographing Jennifer Saunders, who's a brilliant medium. So you get to meet people. I did Cathy Burke the other day. It's a fantastic opportunity to meet people who get out there and earn a living.
Okay, we've got our cameraman.
Yeah, hi cameraman.
Hello. So each year iPhone release new camera with the new lens and new. What's your thoughts on smartphone photography, and what's your thoughts on AI and combining?
Right. Yeah, I was waiting for the AI question. It always happens. So first off, iPhones are brilliant. I've got a 15, which is I think the camera's about the same on 17 and 15. I don't think it's any that much better. But particularly it's the low light, often I take pictures on that, and they're better than the ones I would take with my Canon. With AI, I'd say, the people that have a very strong voice in photography aren't really threatened, because I've seen, for example, people use AI on my own images, and they're horrible. They take all the worst bits of it, bright colours, over-saturated, and they leave out any subtlety. So at the moment, I'm not bothered by it. But I think that sort of underlaying, like catalogue photographers, they're going to have a problem, because you could do that on AI without really losing much artistic integrity. So yeah, but medically, it's going to be brilliant. What it can do, you can trace all these cancers and such like. So basically, I'm a fan of AI, but I don't want to use it myself.
Great, thank you.
I think we'll call it there. So we just have another thank you to.
Except on Wednesday when I get rudely awakened by the dustman. I put my trousers on, have a cup of tea, and I think about leaving the house. It gives me a sense of enormous well-being. I put my trousers on, have a cup of tea, and I think about leaving the house. I feed the pigeons, I sometimes feed the sparrows too. It gives me a sense of enormous well-being, and then I'm happy for the rest of the day.